Morning, all. All right, so 12 games tonight in the National Hockey League. We got 7 games starting at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, one a half an hour later, two a half an hour after that, and then by the time we reach 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, there's 11 games going on at the same time. And there's only the one later game. So I have to pick and choose what I'm watching, and that means that if it's a matchup between two teams that are out of the playoffs, that's the matchup that gets the least amount of attention when I'm trying to track the games. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between the New York Islanders and the Buffalo Sabres. This is going to be an interesting one. They've split the first two meetings. October 14th, it was a 3-2 win for the Islanders. On October 21st, it was a 3-1 win for Buffalo. For the Islanders, they're 29, 21, and 14. Over the last month, they're 7, 3, and 1. They are tied with Detroit for that final playoff spot. Nelson's been their leading scorer over the last month in 11 games, 7 goals, 8 assists, 15 points. Pajot, 11 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points over that same time period. On the Buffalo side, they are 31, 30, and 5 overall. They're 8, 5, and 1 over the last month. They're 5 points out of the playoffs. So this is a huge game for Buffalo. They do have an issue where they've played more games than teams they're chasing, but they're in the hunt, and so I'm not going to begrudge anybody who's getting excited about it, but we saw this last year. Thompson, their leading scorer over the last month in 13 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. Bowen Byram, in 3 games since joining Buffalo, 3 goals with an assist for 4 points. I think Byram likes it there. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. This is the third and final meeting as well. These teams may very well meet in the playoffs. November 10th, Florida won 5-2. On February 22nd, Carolina won 1-0, and that was a late goal. And what a game that was. So Florida 45, 17, and 4 overall. They're 12 and 2 over the last month. They are 3 points ahead of the Boston Bruins atop the Atlantic Division. Tkachuk's been their leading scorer over the last month, 13 games, 4 goals, 14 assists for 18 points. Tarasenko, I think, fits in pretty well in Florida. In 3 games, 2 goals with an assist for 3 points. On the Carolina side, they're 39, 20, and 6. They're 9, 3, and 1 over the last month. They're 8 points ahead of Philadelphia, so pretty solidly in second place in their division. Svechnikov and Teravainen both leading the team in scoring with 13 games played, 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points each. Jake Gensel, just the 1 game, not a lot to go on. He looked good, but he did not get a point in his first game as a Carolina Hurricane, as no one did. That was the shutout loss against the New York Rangers. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, another rubber match. This one between Ottawa and Columbus. Remember what I said about teams far out of the playoff picture? These guys are. Columbus won the first matchup December 1st by a score of 4-2. February 13th, Ottawa won 6-3 in that one. Now, on the Ottawa side of things, they're 26, 33, and 4 overall. Over the last month, they're 4, 8, and 2. They're 16 points out of the playoffs. Columbus is 22, 33, and 10 overall. They're 6 and 7 over the last month. They're 18 points outside of the playoffs. On the Ottawa side, Stützle has been their leading scorer in 14 games, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points. Tkachuk has yet to hit the scoreboard in the 2 games he's played as a member of the Sens. On the Columbus side, Johnny Gaudreau, leading scorer that's still with the team. Roslovic, still their leading scorer over the last month. But Gaudreau, 13 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. And Corrali, prominent, not a lot of points though. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in 13 games. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between the Arizona Coyotes and the Detroit Red Wings on March the 8th. Arizona won 4-0. I'm guessing Detroit comes out tonight and should be up like 3-0 halfway through the first period. Just there should be a lot of anger for Detroit and a lot of panic and maybe some determination. On the Arizona side, they're 26, 35, and 5 overall. They're 3, 11, and 1 over the last month. It's been a tough time. They're 20 points out of the playoffs in the West. Nick Schmaltz, their leading scorer over the last month in 15 games, 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points. Barrett Hayden's picked it up lately, but he's got 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points in 14 games, also over the last calendar month. On the Detroit side, they're 33, 26, and 6 overall. They are tied with New York, with the Islanders, for that last playoff spot in the East, but they're 6 and 7 since over the last month. Kane in 13 games over that month, 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points. DeBrincat, I've started seeing some grumbling about DeBrincat and his lack of production here and there. 13 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. Definitely the shines come off that start of the season he had Remember the start of the season for Detroit? Good times. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between the Boston Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens. This is the fourth and final meeting. Boston won 2 of the first 3. On November 11th, it was a 3-2 overtime win for Montreal. On November 18th, a 5-2 win for Boston. And most recently, on January 20th, a 9-4 win for Boston. The Bruins are 38, 14, and 5, or 15 overall. I was going to say 5, but 15. They're 6-3 and 5 over the last month. So they've only lost 3 in regulation out of those 14 games, or they've only won 6 out of those 14 games. Depends how you look at it. Pasternak's been their leading scorer over the last month in 14 games, 8 goals, 9 assists, 17 points. They are sitting 9 points ahead of Toronto in second place in the division. Danton Heinen in 14 games, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points for Heinen. On the Montreal side, they're 25, 30, and 10 overall. They are 3, 7, and 2 over the last month. 12 points out of the playoffs. Nick Suzuki, their leading scorer over the last month, 12 games, 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points. I wanted to mention Waugh because I think Joshua Waugh has been good for them. 12 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. A lot of potential there. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start as well between San Jose and Pittsburgh. Oh, remember the last time these teams met? It was a 10-2 win for Pittsburgh on November the 4th. So when I see them with a positive goal differential, I always keep that in the back of my mind. San Jose is 16, 41, and 7. They're 2, 9, and 2 over the last month, sitting 38 points out of the playoffs. Granlund, 13 games played, has been their best scorer over the last month. 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points. Klim Kostin has recorded 1 assist in the 2 games he's played since coming over at the deadline. On the Pittsburgh side, they're 28, 27, and 9. They're 5, 8, and 2 over the last month. They have fallen out of contention. They are 7 points back of a playoff spot. Crosby, their leading scorer over the last month in 15 games, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points. Michael Bunting, in 3 games since joining Pittsburgh, has the single goal to show for it. And also at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, the New York Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning meet for the third and final time. On December 30th, the Rangers won 5-1. February 7th, the Rangers won again 3-1. So if Tampa can get more than 1 goal tonight, they're making progress. The Rangers 43, 18, and 4 overall. They're 9, 2, and 1 over the last month. They are 6 points ahead of Carolina. So yeah, they're pretty comfortably ahead. And if Florida can win and they can win, then they'd be 9 or 8 points ahead of Carolina. Well, 7 or 8, depending on whether or not it's overtime. Anyways, Panarin, the leading scorer for the Rangers over the last month. 12 games, 4 goals, 15 assists, 19 points. Lindgren, brother of Charlie. 12 games, 4 assists for him, and Ryan's got a plus 10 as well. So he's been quite good, quite effective. Not really a surprise to anybody. On the Tampa Bay side, 34, 25, and 6 is their overall record. They're 2 points ahead of the Islanders and Detroit. So they're not out of the woods. If Detroit picks things up and if the Islanders play really well, Tampa Bay could find themselves on the outside looking in at the playoffs. They're 5, 5, and 1 over the last month. Kucherov, their leading scorer over that time period, 11 games, 4 goals, 13 assists, 17 points. Duclair knows how to make a debut. Had a goal and an assist in the 1 game he's played with Tampa Bay thus far. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Philadelphia Flyers meet for the second of 3 times. February 15th, it was an overtime win for Toronto 4-3. These teams will meet again March the 19th. This should be a fun one. Toronto 37, 19, and 8 overall. They're 10-3 over the last month. And I find this interesting because when I do the power rankings, people just remember the Boston losses. But yeah, they're 10-3 over the last month. They're playing well. They're 8 points clear of Tampa Bay for third place in the division. Mitch Marner, their leading scorer over the last month in 12 games, 3 goals, 16 assists, 19 points. And Tavares in 12 games, 5 goals and assists for 6 points overall. Then on the Philadelphia side, they're 34, 24, and 8. They are 5, 5, and 2 over the last month. They're 7 points clear of Washington, who lost last night in Edmonton. They're 4 points clear of the Islanders, so they'll be keeping an eye on what goes on in Buffalo. But yeah, they're in pretty good shape to at least make the playoffs, but they do need to keep winning games here and there. This is the second game of a 2-game suspension, of course, for Tortorella. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, the New Jersey Devils and the Dallas Stars were new acquaintances. On January 20th, Dallas went into New Jersey and won 6-2. For the Devils, they're 31, 30, and 4 overall. They're 4 and 9 over the last month, so it's really fallen off for them. They're 6 points out of a playoff spot. He's their leading scorer over the last month. 13 games, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points. Dawson Mercer just has the 1 goal in 13 games, so his production's really dropped off. On the Dallas side, they're 40, 18, and 9 overall. They're 7, 4, and 3 over the last month. Colorado has tied them atop the division, and Dallas sits 2 points clear of Winnipeg. So nothing is certain in that division as of yet. Johnston, the leading scorer for Dallas over the last month. 14 games, 9 goals, 9 assists, 18 points. In the 4 games Chris Tanev has played since joining Dallas, he has 1 goal. Also at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, we have the Anaheim Ducks and the Minnesota Wild. I'm really going out on a limb predicting Minnesota's going to beat Anaheim at home. So Anaheim won the first matchup January 27th by a score of 3-2, so you never know. These teams will meet again March the 19th. For Anaheim, they're 23, 39, and 3. They're 5, 7, and 1 over the last month, meaning they still won almost half of their games. They're 28 points out of the playoffs. Vetrano, their leading scorer over the last month, 13 games, 7 goals, 5 assists, 12 points. Killorn's been maybe their most dangerous goal-scoring forward recently. 12 games, 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points for Killorn. On the Minnesota side, they're 32, 27, and 7 overall. They're 8, 4, and 2 over the last month, but they find themselves 6 points out of the playoffs. And it's a little dicey. That separation in the West, it feels like, has become a thing. There's not as much of a separation in the East between teams in the playoffs and below. Minnesota's going to look to tighten things up a bit tonight. Kaprizov's their leading scorer over the last month, 14 games, 13 goals, 11 assists, 24 points. Marcus Foligno's played 3 games since coming back from injury. He has 1 goal in those 3 games. 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific start between Vegas and Calgary. This is a 4th and final meeting. On November 27th, Calgary won 2-1 in overtime. December 12th, I should say, was a 5-4 overtime win for Vegas. And January 13th, a 3-1 win for Calgary. So the Flames have won 2 of the first 3. But Vegas, it feels like, has started to figure it out. We saw that comeback against Seattle. We'll see what they do tonight. Vegas is 35, 23, and 7 overall. They're 4, 7, and 1 over the last month. They are tied with LA in their positioning in the West. 6 points clear of St. Louis and Minnesota. Marchessault, their leading scorer over the last month, 12 games, 10 goals, 5 assists, 15 points. Eichel, in the 4 games he's played, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. So definitely made a difference with him coming back. On Calgary, they're 31, 29, and 5. They are 6 and 6 over the last month, but it does feel like they've trended towards just imploding at this stage. They're 10 points out of the playoffs now and really looked kind of dispirited their last couple of games. Kadri, their leading scorer over the last month, 12 games, 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points. Weegar, 12 games, 4 assists, and an ugly -12. So Weegar having a tough time of it. 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific start between Washington and Seattle on January 11th. Seattle went into Washington and won 4-1. The Caps are 30, 25, and 9. They are 7, 4, and 1 after that loss last night against Edmonton. They're 3 points out of the playoffs in the East. Strome, their leading scorer over the last month in 12 games, 2 goals, 14 assists, 16 points. Milano, 10 games, 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points, and he very nearly had a goal last night against Edmonton as well. On the Seattle side, they're 28, 24, and 12. They're 9 points out of the playoffs. They're 6, 3, and 2 over the last month. McCann, over that time period, 11 games, 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points to be their leading scorer. Tatar, 11 games, just the 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points for Tatar. But we'll see how that one goes. Let me know your thoughts and your picks in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.